Welcome everybody to the Friar Talk podcast. Today we're going to recap the Padres and Cubs series with Mike. Then Mike's going to hop off. Me and Isaac are going to talk a little bit about a potential trade that one of the listeners brought up, and then we'll finally preview the Mets. So I'll let you start, Mike. Your boys won a better fought series by the Padres, but on the Padres side, the bats still weren't there. Uh, kind of wasted a Yu Darvish start in my mind. I think that was his second loss of the year. Comes out, and we were even talking after the game, Mike, and you said, hey, that's a game that you want to win if you have Darvish pitching because he looked really good. Padres couldn't hit Arrieta, and it just that kind of ended the series with the kind of a sour taste in every Padres fan's mouth, I think. But what were just your overall thoughts on the series, and how do you feel about your Cubbies right now? Because they're doing pretty good, man.
Well, yeah, like you mentioned, another Cubs win. Obviously, happy about that. What I was really the most impressed about was the pitching. I think outside of Alzolay, the first day he kind of got crapped on a little bit, but then Zach Davies pitched 6 innings, 1 hit, no run, and the only hit was a little blooper from Tatis. Was really happy about how well he pitched, and then obviously our bullpen was shut down. The next day we had Arrieta. Arrieta looked like he was back in 2016. Pitched a gem. I mean, him and Darvish were going back to back, and it was honestly, if you're a fan of pitching, it was fun to watch. But then when Darvish got out, we kind of were able to hit on the bullpen just a little bit more. Um, and we won a low run game, and that's honestly very encouraging for me. When our pitching can win us games and not just our bats. Obviously, our bats have been good, so was very happy to see the pitching. Obviously, our bullpen was great, so that was my biggest takeaway. Was just happy that the pitching was as good as it was.
Yeah, much credit to the Cubs. I think they've had probably the best bullpen in baseball over the last month or so. They've had a really good bullpen. I definitely thought we would rake off Zach Davies, but he had our number, I guess. And that kind of looked like the Zach Davies that was with us. We were huge Zach Davies fans when he was with us because he was our fifth starter, but he was constantly providing a lot of really good games. And he, as our fifth starter, he was just spectacular, I thought. And then coming into this game, into this Jake Arrieta Yu Darvish game, I had it locked in. I was like, oh, this is going to be a win because, the Padres should not be losing a start like that from Yu Darvish. It's very rare that they lose a start like that. The only other one I can remember is the one they lost against the Dodgers, where Yu Darvish walked in a run. But other than that, he was spectacular. But that's how like AJ Cassavell said, that's how the Padres bats aren't very good right now. They lost a start by Yu Darvish. That was that good. A bunch of these guys' batting averages are down from what they used to be. Tatis is batting like 277 now. Jake is batting like 276. Hosmer's down a lot. Manny's down 230. So just a lot of these guys' batting averages are going down. Uh, you know, Frankly enough, we bash him a lot. A lot of credit to Tommy Pham for what he's been doing. He's been doing really well, especially getting on base. I think Matt brought it up before the episode. He was around 450 on base percentage. But overall, this wasn't a very encouraging series from the Padres. But we'll have to see how they recover, like on this off day, and hopefully it's good for them.
Yeah, going back to Tommy Pham real quick, he has an on base percentage of 448 in June, so it's like recently he's been doing really well. His on base percentage is still really really high, and you kind of start. We were talking about it before the episode, Isaac. You kind of start going through the lineup, and all of the averages are like 30 or 40 points below what they were 2 or 3 weeks ago. That's the part that's really concerning. And also, Mike, it's not like they just haven't been able to hit the Cubs pitching. It's been consistently haven't been able to hit starters. And then you play a team like the Cubs where their bullpen's dialed in, like the Padres has been as well. It's going to be tough to win those games, especially when you fall behind, especially when you can't generate base runners. Because that wasn't the issue early on for the Padres. It was, we can't bring guys in. Wednesday, you look at that game, the Padres went 1 for 2 with runners in scoring position. You should never have two opportunities with runners in scoring position. That is not good. One of those was a Manny Machado single, and he's a guy that's actually been really, really clutch. We were looking at Manny's numbers. He's hitting like 370 with runners in scoring position. He hasn't been hitting really well, but there's just not enough guys getting on. And right now for the Padres, if Tatis isn't able to generate the entire offense like the last couple weeks, they have really struggled. You've had a lack of production from Eric Hosmer and Will Myers. I think that's really hurt them. You have Austin Nola out. You have Trenton Grisham out. You have a couple guys out, so like the lineup's not quite there. But the Padres are really struggling to hit right now. And we're not going to talk about it in this segment, but they have DeGrom on Friday. So it's like, oh man, we just came off a series where you can't hit and then you go against DeGrom. That's just brutal. But I really think that like a couple of these guys are starting to wake up. I do believe that Machado is starting to wake up because we've seen him just clutch hit lately. He looked pretty good in the series. I would argue that he was the best hitter of this series. Also, Tommy Pham seems like he gets a hit every night right now and walks once or twice most days. So he's just been an on base machine. I will give credit to one particular guy in the Cubs, Patrick Wisdom. Right now,
My
if
man.
you look at his stat line, he is hitting 364 with what is it, 8 bombs in 10 games. Mike, is that right?
Yeah, I think it's 8 and 11 because he didn't hit one in the last game, but he's just been on absolute fire. I mean, how many? I don't know what the actual stat is, but how many players have come up from the AAA into the majors and their first week won NL Player of the Week? I mean, that's just ridiculous. So I am absolutely loving Patrick Wisdom. Been great been great in the field, been great batting, and I think that we got an underrated gem on our team.
Yeah, much credit to Patrick Wisdom. I think I brought it up in a past episode. That's kind of you guys' version of our Jake Cronenworth. Jake Cronenworth came around last year. Maybe a little bit different scenario because Jake came in a pinch hit situation. I believe it was against the Diamondbacks, and he had a big time double for us to come at least close to winning that game. And then Hosmer goes down, and suddenly Jake gets his opportunity. And he's turned himself into a really, really solid everyday player. Really good. One of my favorite players for sure. But yes, much credit to Patrick Wisdom. He's been an absolute baller. I guess the question I would have for Matt right now is, with this current state of the Padres offense, are you, because I see a lot of concern regarding, this offense, and the fans are starting to get very concerned with, how much, like, there's not very many scoring opportunities for these guys. They're not creating many scoring opportunities. There's not a lot of run support for the pitchers. Are you concerned at all with this Padres offense, or do you think maybe it's just a little roadblock in the season?
I feel like throughout the whole season, every time Isaac, me and you, and then a lot of times Chase as well, like when we've talked about it, it's been, don't worry about the offense. It'll come around. It'll come around. It'll come around. And we just keep repeating that. It's not really coming around. It's not like if you look at it overall, they're pretty average right now. But that's the thing. Like we don't expect them to be average. I would say I'm not super concerned because what we know is that AJ Preller will make a lot of moves if he does not feel that this offense is going to bounce back. I think that from how AJ Preller has turned this franchise around, full faith in him. Full faith in him to do what he thinks that he's able to do and do what's best for the team and the organization. If he thinks that they have a chance to push for a World Series, that they have the pitching staff to do it, they have the two superstars, or I would say three superstars, and they think they can add another big bat that'll get the job done. We talked about Jesse Winker last time, and maybe he's really expensive, but Preller's gonna find the guys that need to be added to wake this offense up. That's what I'm confident about. But right now, I think that everyone should be a little bit concerned. Not to say that you don't believe in this team. I 100% still believe in this team, even if the offense is where it's at now. What are the Padres? They're at almost a 600 winning percentage, and they've played the most. Like they've had the hardest schedule, I think, to start the season out of any team. I think they've played 39 games, like 39 teams over 500, and then the Dodgers have played like early 30s, and then the Giants have played like 20 something. Like they've played like way less really like quality baseball teams. So I wouldn't say I'm super concerned because I know I have faith that AJ Preller will either make a move to figure it out or the bats will wake up and he won't have to be in that situation. But I mean, right now, in terms of how it's going, it hasn't looked great. So you got to monitor it. But I still think that the offense will eventually come around. Maybe not to the extent that we originally thought, but the pitching staff still has an ERA under 3. If you have an ERA under 3, you're going to win a lot of games, even if you're lacking offense. So that's kind of where I'm at with them. But I'll go to you, Mike, so we can kind of wrap up this segment. What are just your overall thoughts on the Cubs now? Because I don't think the Padres play the Cubs one time for the rest of the year. So this might be the last time we have you on, maybe until a playoff series. But right now,
Yeah.
Cubs are leading the Central, half a game ahead of the Brewers. What are just your overall thoughts on the Chicago Cubs to wrap up this segment?
Yeah, to kind of keep it brief, I think they've just, at least since the start of May up until now, they've greatly overperformed. I think they've been very hot. They've beaten a lot of good teams. They've beaten that span, the Dodgers. They beat the Padres twice. So I mean, they've beaten a lot of really good teams. We've really separated ourselves from the NL Central. The Brewers are catching up actually, which is not good, but the Cardinals are like 3 games behind right now. So very impressed with that. And like you said, we don't play the Padres for the rest of the series, so this might be my last time on. But I think these are 2 teams that realistically could make the playoffs. I think especially if we win the Central, obviously we'll be in, and then you guys are obviously talented enough to make the playoffs. So it wouldn't be a shocker if we met in the playoffs. But I hope that we can maintain our recent level of success. We also got some guys on the injured list. We got Nico Horner's the big guy. Javi Baez is hurt right now. Ian Happ's been battling injuries. So if we can get those guys back and we can get those guys rolling, we can have our lineup good, then I really do believe that we can make a push for a playoff.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for hopping on, Mike. I think it'll do it for this show. But this is your first time checking out the Padres channel and you're a Padres fan, make sure to sub and do all that. And we'll talk to you guys about a potential trade tomorrow. And also we'll preview the Mets series as well. So thanks everyone for listening and we'll talk to you guys soon.